Let's talk about California's $128 billion train to nowhere, shall we? It all started in 2008 when California voters passed a high-speed rail project. It was supposed to cost $33 billion and be completed by 2020. Here we are in 2025, it's nowhere near completion, and the cost estimate has now ballooned, and trains likely won't be running until 2033. This is a story about how that happened. My name is Scott Monday, and I come from a construction and real estate background. I make videos about things that just don't make sense to me. I try to get to the bottom of them, and this story is how we got to where we are with California's high-speed rail. This is not a political video. This is a video about the facts. This is a video about a failure of a system, and you get to decide what you're going to think and what you're going to do about it. So let's dive in. First, why did the job start in the Central Valley? If you don't know California geography, the Central Valley is much more Midwest than it is beaches and Bay Area that you normally think of when you think of California. And right now, if you drive up and down Highway 99, you're going to see 30 to 50 different structures, trestle bridges and things like that, that are literally being built in the middle of fields. The reason for that is in 2008, the federal government decided they were going to chip in $2.5 billion, but they said, hey, if we're going to do that, it needs to be spent on disadvantaged areas. And California's Central Valley is just that. So that's why the first 170 mile or so stretch is taking place in the Central Valley. But that doesn't explain the overall budget failures. Let's dive into that. See, the most expensive part of this project is the tunneling required through two different mountain ranges. The Tehachapi Mountains headed south and the Diablo Mountain Range headed west. Those mountains haven't moved. The tunneling has always been needed. The difficulty of those projects has always been known. But in 2008, when the California Rail Authority worked with a company called Parsons-Binkerhoff, they just missed the mark. In fact, the original budget was a complete fantasy. In 2008, California's own legislative analyst office even said, quote, that the plan had significant omissions and deficiencies. And a decade later, the state auditor themselves even agreed, citing flawed decision-making and a failure to complete critical planning tasks before starting construction. So what's the lesson here? I think this is a classic bait and switch. In fact, the state government's approach to this has been cited as a violation of voter trust. So here's the bottom line. You can't sell the public on a $33 billion project when your own analysts state from the beginning that is completely 100% inaccurate. So I want to hear from you in the comments. Is this the world's worst engineering estimate? Or was it an intentional bait and switch because the state legislature knew they could not get the project passed at its true and accurate costs? Let me know what you think.